everyone, I'm the Unknown Resistor, and welcome to the pilot episode of Mad as Hell with the Unknown Resistor. You've probably seen me around Twitter making political commentary on this crazy cult called the Republican Party. Here on Mad as Hell, we are turning our amp up to level 11 with some fun and entertaining interviews with folks we think you're going to want to hear from. So today, we are super stoked to kick this off with Ted Cruz's new archenemy, Benjamin Hernandez. This guy is my personal superhero, and we'll chat with him here live in just a few minutes. Now, most of you that follow us know that we tend to do a lot of political satire. Today's pilot episode, however, is not going to be the case. The tragic and senseless murders of 19 school children and 2 teachers in Uvalde, Texas this week has once again laid clear Republican lawmakers' shameful fealty to the gun lobby in America. Exhibit A is Texas Senator Ted Cruz. The NRA has donated more money to Ted Cruz's campaigns than any other member in the Senate. Any other member. So despite the fact that this horrific act of gun violence took place in his very own state and the victims belong to families that he has taken an oath to serve, Ted Cruz chose to spend Friday speaking at the NRA's annual convention in Houston. Now, for far too long, powerful Republican lawmakers have unconscionably turned a blind eye to the violence epidemic in this country. After every massacre, they follow the same script. They offer hollow thoughts and prayers that deny the laws that they pass allowing unfettered access to guns in this country have anything to do with the fact that people keep getting shot. And then they return to the NRA with hat in hand and collect their checks for their re-election campaign. And for far too long, many have stood by and allowed this to continue. It's long past time that we stood up and demanded accountability from our elected representatives, which is why it is my honor to bring to you our next guest.
We can make it harder for people to get guns in this country, sir. You know that. No. You know that, but you stand here. You stand at the NRA convention. It is harder. It is harder when there are more guns to stop gun violence. It is not ignorance. You don't know what you're talking about. We are in this country and there are guns everywhere, and there are kids dying. There are kids dying. Listen, why can't you just support stronger gun laws? I've introduced culture. But why does this keep happening? Why does this keep happening? Why? Hey,
Okay. He's just talking.
Why does this keep happening? Tell me why does this keep happening? And why did you come here to the convention?
You need to back up. You need to back up.
Why? When 19 children died. 19 children died. That's on your hands. That is on your hands. Ted Cruz, that's on your hands. I need you to chill out. I did chill out. You did not chill out.
He's just talking.
Get arrested. Listen, I'm coming, right? Fuck you, Ted! Fuck you!
Get out.
All right, please welcome from Houston, Texas, Benjamin Hernandez. Thank you for being here, and thank you for going after Ted Cruz. So Benjamin, your actions are an inspiration to all of us. Can you please kind of talk us through the events of what happened the other night?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're at Uptown Sushi, loving this Sweeto roll,
Nice.
and all the other fantastic things they have. We're wrapping up dinner, and just turn around and here's Ted Cruz walking in with his party, like like nothing has happened, right? And that to me was what was most offensive, right?
Sure.
And I think people can say, like, you can have dinner, and that's, yeah, of course, go to a restaurant, have dinner. But in the context of what is happening in this state, in the context of the conversations we need to be having, and in the context of just having attended the NRA convention to show up to dinner, like nothing's happening, something that I just didn't feel myself that I could be there and not say something.
So you pay the bill. You're like ready to go, and in case this whole thing goes totally south, and then you tell your wife, okay, I'm going to go talk to him. Like, what was the next thing that happened?
Yeah, so I told my wife, all right, so I don't know if he's gonna fall for this again. I've seen other people do it to him. Like, let me take a picture. So I'm like, Let me do the take a picture bit. And I'm like, how many times are these guys gonna fall for that bit? You're like Ted Cruz, man. You're not that popular, so like you got to be real skeptical when somebody says they're gonna come take a picture with you. So, anyways, I walk up to his table. And what's interesting is I'm not gonna lie, y'all. Like I've never done anything like this in my life, and to a certain degree, I was a little scared because like I'd never done this, right? But the
Sure.
moment I got up and I started walking, that was it. Like it was just like I knew what I had to do. I walked up to him, I leaned over, I was like, "Excuse me, Senator. I'm so sorry to interrupt, but like, when you're done with your dinner, like, can I take a picture with you? No, 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 not right now." I was like, "Finish your dinner, right?" Because I'm trying to seem as friendly as possible because
Oh,
I'm thinking
courteous.
like I'm hedging against this guy knows this bit, right? I'm trying to hedge and be like, "Oh, well, not right now, later," just trying to hedge that. The guy was like, "No, no, no, let's do it right now." I was like, "You want to do it? Okay, all right." And so I like had already told my wife to come on over, and she was like had the phone ready. Um,
So, Benjamin, your group, Indivisible Houston, how can Houstonians help out in what you guys are up to?
Yeah, I think the first thing they can do is, follow us on our social platforms, right? This is Indivisible Houston. Look us up, you'll find us. But then you can go, if you want to get involved, if you want to volunteer, whether that's your time or your money or whatever that is, go to indivisiblehouston.org. Because that'll allow you, if you hit the volunteer button, to send us a message with your information. We'll get you plugged into our activities. There is so much work to do. I think we gotten through the hell, I think, of the last 4 years with Trump, but that doesn't mean the work stops because there are things that even in a democratic administration we need to hold people accountable, and that work doesn't stop, right? And as you can see, there are things like holding Ted Cruz accountable when these things happen that need to continue to happen. So yeah, send us a message. We'd love to get you plugged into our work.
That's fantastic. So yeah, somebody here, watching this interview, what advice do you have for the everyday citizen out there, who are tired of the way things are going, who want to make a difference? Like, what's your advice to them?
Yeah, I would tell you, just from a very, very humble place, that, you know, uh, I knew I had to do something. I couldn't tell you that I knew what, right? I told you I texted my buddies. I was like, okay, he's here. I have to do something. Give me your thoughts. And so why I'm saying that is because maybe people look at me and say, well, like he's an activist, he's part of, this group, and that's kind of what they do. But I'll tell you, like, I'm kind of like a background person, like helping with
Hmm.
live streaming on the board, so I haven't always been like a frontline person. I've never done anything like this. So I'm relating to people and saying, if you've never done something like this, I think the message that I want you to take away, like, is like, it looked one way on the video, right? Because once I
Right.
switched my mind and I said go, I'm like, there was just no turning back for me. But it wasn't like I'd done this before. I hadn't practiced this. This all just came. And so I'm saying that is inside of all of us. If you are pissed off enough, if you are enraged enough, if you are incensed enough at what you are seeing or lack of what you are seeing in your politicians, take the opportunity, hold them accountable, get in their face. And like I said, I think what we have to do is we have to do confrontation and conversations. Confrontation with these elected officials that hide, right? And
Right.
don't be afraid, whether they're on the street, whether they're walking in a parking garage, the theater, or a restaurant in this case, confront them, right? Because they are hiding from having these conversations. And then with the rest of us, the community and those around you, you know where you live, you know your community. That
Right.
community doesn't need confrontation, it needs the conversation, because that's your neighbors, your peers. That's they're not the ones that are creating this divided environment. It's all those politicians who are just stuck there and glued to their moneyed interests. And so I just like want us to be real intentional about that, that we should be having those conversations with people around us. But these elected officials, you can do it. You can do it.
Yeah.
I had never done it before, and I was like, I have to do something because, you know, again, this is happening in the context of a tragedy that we saw once again in
Right.
Uvalde. 19 kids were killed and two teachers, right? And I'm in no way like, I don't know, I don't have the words to be able to express anything that the families must be going through right now. And so to me, in the small way that I could, maybe they don't have the headspace to be able to confront their elected officials and ask them, why does this keep happening? And they shouldn't. They should be grieving, But here I am, and I'm like, this guy just walked into my space. I'm going to ask those questions that we're all thinking, because there's other people that are suffering the consequences right now. And they don't get to ask those questions because they have more important things to take care of. So in my way, and what I'm encouraging other folks to do is ask those questions, because if not, this is going to keep happening over and over again.
Yeah, like I say, this is really it's a book that just has chapter after chapter being added to it, and the two authors of this book are the GOP and the NRA. Mm-hmm. So after so many of these horrible events, and it just keeps going and going and going, what do you think it's going to take to make a positive change in gun legislation in this country?
I think we have to cripple the lobby that is blocking common sense gun reform, and that starts with the NRA. Sure, we've gotten them to be bankrupt. We've gotten them to move their state. They came here to Texas. They thought they were going to be welcome. We're going to give them hell. But it also extends to, defeating these politicians that don't care about anything but that money that this lobby is giving them. And that's the Ted Cruzes of the world and the other Republicans, again, that are just blocking this because they're afraid of those donors. They're afraid of losing that money. And that's the only reason they don't do it. It's not the American people, because the American people, we're behind this. It's just they're afraid of losing that money. They're afraid of ultimately losing their job. So I think the choice is simple, right? You're afraid of losing your job for not doing it. Well, we're going to make you lose your job, for your inaction.
I couldn't agree enough. I mean, really, when you think about it, it boils down to greed, and these guys are, all they really seem to care about is their own job security as a politician, and like I said earlier, they just want to ignore the will of the people, and they're going to do whatever their NRA handlers say. And people like Ted Cruz, who just sit and regurgitate the same talking points. It was interesting. If I can find the image of the tweet, I'll put it up for everyone. But it was someone took and made a montage of all of the Republican tweets from the various senators and representatives that these are all the tweets in response to the massacre, and they were almost all exactly the same. It was you knew it was all out of the same playbook, and and this has got to stop. We just can't keep going down this same road, because obviously if nothing is done, nothing is going to change. But I know I can speak for, I would say, everyone here watching this. Our hat is off to you for seeing Cruz come in, taking that opportunity, living in the moment, and speaking your personal truth, and speaking what really is on the minds of, I think, most Americans. And my hat's off to you. I think that was a huge amount of courage, and I know you're going to be doing really, really big things. And more importantly, I think this really gives people an example of when you see an opportunity and it's time to say something, you stand up and you say something. And you stood up to Ted Cruz. So anyway, so thank you very much for coming on. This was our very first show, and we're very honored that you were here. So everyone, you can follow Benjamin on Twitter at the Benjamin HDZ. We'll put it up on the bottom, and his group Indivisible Houston on Twitter. That's at Indivisible HOU. So thanks again, Benjamin, for coming on, and thanks for fighting the fight and sending Ted Cruz on his way. So thank you very much.
Thanks. I appreciated being here with y'all. Thank you.
All right, everyone. Thanks for joining us on our very first pilot episode of Mad as Hell with the Unknown Resistor. We would like to thank Benjamin Hernandez for being our very first guest, And moreover, thank you to Benjamin for confronting Ted Cruz in that restaurant. That was freaking awesome. So we hope to be back with more of these with interesting guests and people we think you'd like to hear from. And as always, if you enjoy our content, do us a solid, give us a retweet and a follow. We are not a big organization. We are almost entirely self-supported with some grassroots donations. So we always appreciate your support in helping us to fight in 2022 and 2024. I'm the Unknown Resistor.
Stand for Better is responsible for the content of this advertising.